to the 40K Fireside podcast, where we discuss everything to do with competitive Warhammer 40K with your hosts Vik VJ and David Gaylord. Okay, everyone, welcome back to 40K Fireside. This is your host Vik here, and I am super hyped today because the Emperor's Children Codex has been leaked. We've got a few of the data sheets people have been playing, battle reports have been out, and I think this is potentially the most fun codex I've ever used. And I love the Eldari Codex. The new Eldari Codex is brilliant, but there's something super unique about this Emperor's Children Codex, and I could not wait to dive in, get a few games in so that I can give you guys some more of my thoughts, especially from a more competitive level of where I think Emperor's Children will sit. And what better way to do this than with a tier list of all of the data sheets where I can talk through each individual element of the army, give my thoughts on that, and help you guys formulate your ideas and thoughts as well. I found it very interesting how group thinking with the Eldari Codex has resulted in so much information passing around that people have created these phenomenal lists with Eldari. The rate of improvement and optimization of lists has been huge, and I'm hoping we can achieve a very similar thing with the Emperor's Children Codex here. Now, I want to give a shout out to Art of War for kind of putting a video out with the points, the MFM points, which will be kind of coming out with the Codex whenever it releases. And that's been very useful for both testing and also for the purposes of making this tier list. They're also dropping a tier list probably pretty much around the same time as this, so I don't want to watch theirs before I do my one. These are my pure thoughts, and I think it'll be really interesting for people to compare maybe my tier list with their tier list as well, because we're both playing on that kind of very competitive level. Now, I do want to give a little shout out to our Discord server, which is really growing. It is, unfortunately, it's a members only server, but we want people who are really committed to the factions that they want to play. And so far, the Eldari and the Guard side of things has really grown. Emperor's Children has been something which I've had a lot of interest in whenever they've kind of been around the scene. And the last time they were in the scene was when there was this brilliant list with Terminators, lots of Noise Marines, and I had so much competitive success with that and really enjoyed using that list. I won the LGT Invitational. I came third at LGT that year as well. I won two big events. So Emperor's Children are really close to my heart as something that really pushed me up into being a more competitive player. And I think this codex will do exactly the same thing. So if you want to get more involved in my journey, I will be making Emperor's Children members only videos to go alongside the Eldari videos as well. And I'd like to also make the Emperor's Children Discord channel as popular as the Eldari one. So if you guys want to get involved in that, see what my lists are, see more information about the games that I play, then make sure to join at the Phoenix Lord level of membership on YouTube, and then that'll link up to your Discord. You'll be able to join the Discord and get involved with the discussion. Now, let's jump into this tier list. Now, I've found that I tend to put a lot of restrictions on our tier lists, like, oh yeah, this specific thing. Emperor's Children are glorious. They are glorious, of course they are, but they're particularly glorious in this case because it's a very small number of data sheets and the army is very focused in what it wants to do. So this tier list is going to be for kind of all competitive levels, so not casual levels, competitive levels. And it's going to be an internal and an external balance kind of thing. So anything that I put at the very top, I think is actually good in the game and not just in the Emperor's Children Codex. So this is a really raw, easy to understand and easy to share and discuss kind of tier list that I'm hoping you guys will really enjoy. In terms of detachments and my testing with Emperor's Children, I've had a look through all of the detachments and I've kind of played around with different ideas, but to me, it seems the coterie of the Conceited is by quite a margin the best detachment. Now, I really like the Peerless detachment. That's a pretty good one. Having the extra point of AP does make a big difference, but you kind of kill things you want to kill anyway. So having the wider suite of good rules from the coterie, I think is really really good. They get very quick access to reroll ones for the whole army, which isn't just limited to melee; it's also for shooting. So you can activate both the shooting components and the melee components of your army, along with some very good defensive stratagems. The stratagem that gives you a 4-up feel no pain against mortal wounds is phenomenally important, in my opinion. On top of that, having access to armor of contempt reducing AP by 1 is very powerful. They also have good defensive stratagems in melee mirror matchups by having a kind of suffering and sacrifice esque, you can only target this unit that you're in engagement range with. So overall, I think that detachment is probably the one that I'm going to focus on. I've had the most success in testing with, and I think it combines with the army really well. It also gives you the army rules thrill seekers. It does give you a bit of thrill because you're kind of trying to hit this pledge target. It's also timed poorly. So if you're going second, you kind of have to guess before anything's happened and your opponent has so much information. But it's just fun to try and hit that pledge. Remember, guys, you can choose 0 as your pledge number. And, if you don't get it, you don't take any more. If you don't kill anything, you don't get any mortal wounds on your warlord. And you can always use the stratagem to bump up to 1. You're really aiming for 1 and 3 on your pledge numbers to get your army going. If you hit 5, the latter stages of the game, or if you get 7, oh my goodness, everything just destroys everything. So that's the fun and joy of Emperor's Children. But let's jump straight in. I've put these in kind of what I think is a sensible order, and we're going to work from left to right. Now, I don't have the best pictures here, but the very first picture is the Infractors, which are one of the new battle line choices for the Emperor's Children. The battle line choices are really pushed. If you want another take on this from a different kind of competitive level, I found the tabletop tactics discussion about Tormentors and Infractors very interesting. So make sure to check out that. That's on their free side of their channel. But the Infractors are a very powerful battle line unit. They're OC2. They're only 85 points, which I think is extremely good. Now, the Infractors, in my opinion, form the backbone of any Emperor's Children army and the kind of game plan they want to do. So, to break down what I think is the game plan, I think essentially half of your army is going to be thrown away to disrupt, damage, destroy key assets in the opponent's army at quite an early stage in the game. And then the second half of your army comes in with all of its buffs from the coterie, and you go in and you just finish the job off. You maintain high pressure. If you guys do want to see some battle reports with this, I really enjoyed watching John Lennon play Emperor's Children. I think it is on their member side, but that was quite good to see what happens when you apply high pressure to armies that tend to be a little slow. Or congested in their backfield, which he did beautifully against Tau and Chaos Demons. So that's an exact example in how I feel my games have been going as well using Emperor's Children. And the Infractors are key for that. In every single one of my armies, I've had a minimum of 3 units of Infractors. Now, these guys come in with a built-in ability to reroll wounds of 1, and they also reroll all wounds if the opponent's on an objective, which is phenomenal rule because they have quite good volume with 4 attacks with their dueling sabers. And the Rapture Lash is another 6 attacks from the actual leader in the unit. And this unit, in my opinion, is a phenomenal battle line unit, and I can't see an army not running at least 3 of these. I think this is one of the best battle line units in the game, and also the best battle line / backbone unit for your army here. And it combines very well with our next discussion point, which is the Lord Exultant. I think this guy has been designed beautifully to combine with the Infractors in this army. The Lord Exultant can act as a leader. He's a power armored character, very much like a Chaos Lord or a Space Marine Captain, and he gives the unit lethal hits. The unit of Infractors having quite a high volume of attacks means that with lethal hits, you actually can get damage through on any target, which is very important because Emperor's Children, in my opinion, have a bit of a challenge of getting through very tough, stat checky kind of things, vehicles and monsters. And having a unit that can go in, and if you're in the coterie, you can throw full rerolls to hit. Before you know it, you're putting a dozen lethal hits in with your little AP1 attacks, which actually adds up to a good amount of damage. On top of that, the Lord Exultant himself is actually a massive beatstick. And this unit, I think, is one of my favorite designed units inside of the Emperor's Children Codex, because it's just incredibly fun to use his ability, which gives him an extra number of attacks and an extra AP. So people say, I'm going Super Saiyan because that's what he kind of does. He declared at the start of the fight phase, and he puts in damage with his, in my opinion, the best weapon, which is the Phoenix Spear, which is a 7/2/2 weapon, which has Lance as well. So that combination of those two units is with the character plus the Infractors is incredibly good at killing every single target, hard targets, MSU targets, Cordy targets. That is a great early game trading piece and a great late game finisher, as well as being an objective holder, as well as being a primary denial option, and also being priced relatively fairly. I think because it's 80 points plus 85 points, 165 points is excellent value. It kind of puts them at exactly the same number of points as Howling Banshees and an Autarch, and I think they're very similar in terms of value. And both of those units are S tier units here. Had to bring up Eldar a little bit. Let's move on to the next thing, which is the Flawless Blades. And the Flawless Blades are the elite of the elite. They are kind of the eight bound of Emperor's Children. They're our special possessed here, and they come in a very awkward position here. They have a very low volume of attacks. Let me make sure I have the data sheet here so I don't mess any of this up for you guys. So the Flawless Blades come in at quite a low number of attacks. They only have 3 attacks each, and the unit is 110 points for every 3 models here. At 632, that is not a bad profile on their melee weapons, and they have a decent data sheet rule where they can kind of invoke the favor of their demonic patrons and get the ability to critical wound on a 3+. Now, if you have a good number of buffs in the coterie of the Conceited, you can end up with a unit that could very easily kill a Rogel Dawn, even with just 3 models. So once you get them really buffed up, they do absolutely slap. They move 8 inches as well. The problem is at 110 points for 3 models that are actually really squishy. They're 3 up armor save, 5 up in one with only 3 wounds, and they're only T5. So they're extremely squishy. You struggle a little bit in this army to actually get enough stuff in there to work with your threat saturation. Um, I would say that the Flawless Blades had so much potential if they just had a sweep attack. They've got their 632 profile. Give us a 411 profile with 8 attacks each. And I would be in dream world, because when you give these guys the ability to critical wound on 3s, they will absolutely shred. And I would even take that as a slight points increase. The negative of these guys is that they really need a lot of support to do damage. And when they don't have support, they really don't do much damage at all. So unfortunately for me, the Flawless Blades are going into the situational section, because I think they're still not bad. There are going to be points in list building where you're left with an awkward number of points, and 110 points sits right in between a lot of the options, which tend to be around the 80 point mark or the 130 point mark. So having a 110 choice is useful if that's how your army building is happening. Also, they're incredibly cool, so I would not complain to anyone who wants to run a few Flawless Blades in their army. I think they're okay, but there are definitely better options, and you're going to run out of points before you run out of those options, in my opinion. The next one is Tormentors. So the tabletop tactics video, they were really keen on these guys. They were saying, you could take big units of 10. They are battle line 85 point units, very much like the Infractors, but they're the shooty variant. These guys have infiltrate built in, and they also have sticky objectives. This is an extremely powerful combination for 85 points. In terms of external balance, I think this is one of the best battle line units in the game as well. But in terms of internal balance, I have to question if these guys are really adding to the game plan. They have a relatively low output, and they certainly really don't have any melee output either. Their weapons are quite interesting because they all come with precision, which is quite a cool little idea here. I don't exactly know the lore behind that one, but it's kind of cool. Um, so I think what's going to happen is that people are almost always going to run one of these units. As a backfield holder at 85 points, it's a little expensive for that particular role, but it does give you sticky objectives. Unfortunately, there aren't many better choices here to screen out your backfield and hold your backfield as well. And at 85 points, they're only 5 points more than, say, something like Chaos Spawn, and they do that job better. Um, Running multiple units or larger units, I have a few question marks here. Um, I think that there are probably going to be better ways to use your points. And if I was going to compare the Tormentors to the Infractors, let's say this. Let's say your list design is 3 units of Infractors and 1 unit of Tormentors on the backfield. And now you have points. You have 85 points left at the end of your list building. And you can either add another unit of Infractors, which could forward deploy sticky or expansion objective, or you can take another unit of Infractors. Uh, I would personally take the extra unit of Infractors here rather than the Tormentors, because I think the Infractors give you early game skirmishing opportunities even without the character attached in a way that the Tormentors do not. Now, I'm going to put the Tormentors, oh my gosh, here it begins, the Reddit comments. They should be here, but they're right on the line between these two. Personally, I think I'm going to put them in the useful category. But I think they are going to be, as a single unit, a competitive staple here. So let's be correct and pop these guys up into competitive staple. But they're going to be right at the bottom of this tier no matter what. Next unit is going to be the Lord Cacophonist. Now, this guy is only 60 points. I think this is a hidden gem in the Codex because the Lord Cacophonist is phenomenal and solves a lot of problems for this army. Now, let me get his defensive profile up because surprisingly, he's a Terminator model here, and he has a 2-up armor save with a 4-up invulnerable save. He has 6 wounds and he's T5. At 60 points, this is an incredible steal. The Emperor's Children Terminator-esque models all move 6 inches, so he also moves 6 inches. Now, this guy comes with 2 Screamer pistols that are 512, essentially the Noise Marine's gun in pistol form, and he has 2 of them. The Doom Siren, he's the only model that can have the Doom Siren here, and the Doom Siren's rule has been changed quite significantly. So after you've shot with this model, you pick an enemy infantry unit that has been hit. Yeah, select one enemy unit hit by one or more of the attacks of the Lord Cacophonist, and you do mortal wounds on a 4+ with rolling 3 dice. They also have to take a battle shock test, which is kind of nice. It synchronizes with other options to make things take battle shock and leadership tests, but it also there are options to give -1 as well. So the Lord Cacophonist has a decent amount of shooting, a good defensive profile at a low points cost. He also gives sustained hits to the unit he joins. He can join Noise Marines or Terminators. Let's assume he's going to join Noise Marines in this situation. So phenomenal as a piece attached to Noise Marines, and also phenomenal as a solo piece to do your actions, particularly the just outside deployment zone, sabotage, recover assets, those kinds of things. 60 points is a good amount of points to throw away here for a unit that may not die, really, to be honest. The Lord Cacophonist also makes good use of one of the, maybe 2 of the coterie enhancements here. One of them, to flip a dice to a 6, is incredibly powerful when he's attached to a Noise Marine unit. Giving them sustained hits lets you push through a lot more Blastmaster shots once you flip a failed hit to a 6, which then gives you 2 hits rather than the 0 you just had. Off the back of 6 Blastmaster shots, that is a big improvement in efficiency. So I'm a very big fan of that particular combination. I think that's the Pledge of Unholy Fortune. He can also take, I think he's quite good with the Pledge of Mortal Pain as well, which adds some more mortal wounds in on top of the mortal wounds that he already does. He also has grenades. Yes, he does have grenades. So this guy can be an absolute mortal wound machine. If you give him the Pledge of Mortal Pain, he shoots, he throws grenades. You can end up doing a chunk of mortal wounds off a 60-point model. So in my opinion, I think the Lord Cacophonist is a competitive staple and is going to be right near the top of that very, very powerful unit. All right, let's move on to the Demon Princes. We've got both of them right next to each other. We've got the big boys all right next to each other here. So let's start off with the Demon Prince with Wings. Now, the Demon Prince with Wings is a 2-up arm save, 4-up invulnerable model. It's got 10 wounds and a toughness of 9. A decent combat profile, which is not going to really one-tap a tank necessarily, but has the potential to with his datasheet rule. The datasheet rule is when you make a charge move, you then pick one of the enemy units that you're in engagement range with, and you roll a dice for each wound that you have remaining. So it's going to often be 10 wounds. It's a very fast model. 14 inches with advance and charge is incredibly fast. So he's probably going to get in unwounded, most likely, in the initial charge. So you roll 10 dice, 4 up, you take mortal wounds. Opponent takes 1 mortal wound up to a maximum of 6. It's usually going to be 5 mortal wounds, but a lot of times it ends up 6 because we can be jammy every now and then. But once you put the 6 mortal wounds in, then you are in range to kill a vehicle with the rest of his output. I think personally the Demon Prince with Wings is one of the best units in the Codex, and also combines very well with the particular type of game plan you're going to be going for here. So I've actually found myself pretty much running 3 of these guys, or as a bare minimum running 2 of them. At 180 points, I think they're well costed for what they want to do, and because of the extra speed from Thrill Seekers, I think they're very good. Having Mortal Wound access in the charge phase is incredibly good for killing multiple units, which is exactly what you want to do when you're applying threat saturation. Going in, killing one unit with Mortal Wounds, charging and hitting something else, allowing your other units to push through damage into the correct kind of places, and then tagging stuff up. This guy is so good, and I found it's really strong when I've run 3 of them. They are big models, but because of the extra speed in Emperor's Children, they actually do work perfectly fine in pretty much any of the terrain formats. Big fan of the Winged Demon Prince, and I'm going to put him in S tier. This is a must-take unit for me. Absolutely brilliant. Next one is the Demon Prince on foot. The Demon Prince on foot is very interesting. He is one of the 2 kind of lone op choices that we have. So I put both of the lone op kind of things right next to each other. The Demon Prince with on foot gets an extra point of toughness, so it's toughness 10, and he's still pretty fast. He runs on foot pretty decently, especially with advance and charge. He gets lone operative if he's within 3 inches of a infantry Emperor's Children unit, so that's a really nice lone op rule for such a tough model. But a very powerful rule he has is giving an additional point of AP to everyone that's made a charge move within 6 inches of him. I think this is incredibly powerful. You pushing your AP up, especially on the Infractors to AP2, is quite big. It's not absolutely necessary, but it can help you punch through hard targets really well. And having a tool like this to help you deal with some of the tougher matchups in the game is so useful, particularly in singles. I think this piece could see play instead of one of your Demon Princes with Wings, especially if you have 15 points left over, which is going to be pretty common in list building with an army with such few data sheets that are often very expensive. I'm going to put the Demon Prince here into useful. Now, I think just because of his points cost overlapping with the Demon Prince with Wings, I would most of the time argue that you should get another Demon Prince with Wings into your list instead of this guy, and just get the extra Mortal Wound output going in your charge phase. Overall ends up being a really powerful combination. So going into the useful category here, the next unit is Lucius the Eternal. Now, this is going to be everyone's favorite. I think anytime I've discussed the idea of not running Lucius in a list, a lot of people have turned around and told me, like, that's a choice. And that is a choice. But let's break it down and think about this. So, Lucius the Eternal is a lone up choice, 140 points. For 140 points, it's a relatively fragile profile here. It's got 5 wounds. He have 5 wounds? No, he has 6 wounds, 2 up armor, 4 up invuln, and a 5 up feel no pain. It's a decent profile. In terms of attacks, this is where I have the problem. Now, Lucius gets full rerolls to hit and wound against characters, monsters, and walkers, but importantly, not against vehicles. And also, he doesn't get it against kind of infantry units here, which don't have those keywords. So you're a little stuck here because if you're using Lucius as an early game skirmishing piece, he only has 6 attacks with his 833 profile, which is probably not going to kill 5 Space Marines. And if you use the 10 attack profile at 411, he is definitely not killing 5 Space Marines. And he is not killing 5 Eldar Aspect Warriors either with a 411 profile. So we get a little bit stuck here. Lucius is not a unit killer in early game skirmishes. And I really dislike that personally. I think Lucius is unbelievably cool, useful to have a lone up, but your army is running at the opponent, and 140 points. I am not sure Lucius is actually the correct offensive and defensive profile for this list. This is the most controversial take I'm going to have. But Lucius is a lot like Fuegan and Assaman. You look at the data sheet and you think, oh my god, he is insane. You have to run him. But I ask people to open your mind and think about this a little bit more and think about what he adds relative to other options here. Especially if you're, say, let's compare him to the Demon Prince on Wings. It's very easy to grab the extra 30, the extra 40 points to get this upgrade going. And if it is an upgrade. And I think there is a massive difference between these two units here in terms of the actual overall output that they punch into your list and the defensive profile that they add to your list. I think Lucius is good, but I personally don't think he's a competitive staple. And I think you can make a better list when you don't run Lucius. If you're looking for absolute pure optimization, he is brilliant, very useful piece. I would not blame anyone for not running Lucius in their list. In fact, I think most people are going to run Lucius in their list, but I found my list look a little better when I drop Lucius out and get other options that play into the game plan a little bit better. Saying that I could be wrong, Lucius could be back in before you know it. And then next we've got the Demon Primarch of the Emperor's Children. We've got Fulgrim. Fulgrim is awkward because he's 395 points. Is that right? 385 points. That is so many points for his defensive profile here. Now, Fulgrim does add a lot to this list because Fulgrim moves 16 inches, which is very, very fast. He is also another fight first piece. That is actually one of the big advantages of Lucius. So Lucius is a fight first piece, gives you a bit of defense, but he doesn't actually do enough damage to justify that defense, especially if you're running at your opponent. And also in the coterie, you already have options, defensive melee options by kind of using the stratagem, the suffering and sacrifice type of stratagem to make you only attacked. You can only attack one particular unit. It's a very powerful defensive stratagem. Do you need Lucius's fight first as well? I'm not fully sure. But Fulgrim can have fight first, also has an incredibly powerful ability to prevent fallback, which is a game-winning ability. Has a very interesting mortal wound ability used as an early game piece that can actually put a lot of mortal wounds through to a lot of units if you split your attacks. But overall, I think he is a little bit overcosted here. His offensive profile is good, but a little questionable. He does combo very well with the demon detachment because he already has sustained hits built into his weapon profile, so he'd be getting sustained hits on fives, which is actually quite powerful. He does a good amount of damage if he's supported by demons, Slaneshi demons. But I think until his cost comes down a little bit, I think he is just a useful choice here. He's going to go behind Lucius for sure. Probably behind the Demon Prince on foot, to be honest. He's just a useful choice here, and I can see people building him into their list. But I'm going to compare again to the Demon Prince with wings here, and you can get two of these guys for the cost of Fulgrim with change. That's a pretty powerful change to do. These two of those are quite a bit better than Fulgrim, in my opinion. But let's say you're running a lot of these already, you can also run Fulgrim as well and just add to the monsters running at your opponent's face. Very powerful. Now let's move up back to the top tier of units here. We've got the Noise Marines. The Noise Marines are phenomenal. I think the way they've done this is so cool to take the Noise Marines off being the battle line and make them a little more elite here. They've gone up to toughness 5. They're basically the Havocs of Emperor's Children. I'm a huge fan of the Noise Marine profile. 512 on the basic guns. Incredible Eldar killing, like the T3 killing profile with the Blastmasters and the 6-shot profile is nuts. They absolutely shred stuff. So that unit is incredibly good at killing elite infantry, light infantry, and also allowing you to put some damage through at range into harder targets, kind of softening them up a little bit. Also, plays off the next unit we're going to talk about really, really well. But let's focus on this one. I think what's interesting about the Noise Marines is that they are also a Space Marine profile. The way that the army rule works, you kind of get a lot of benefit out of having a unit that jumps out, shoots something, and then charges something. It's very much like the Orc playstyle. And it's extremely powerful because then you start tagging things up. You still have the ability to fall back and shoot and charge again. So I would say that the Noise Marines are an S tier unit here. And I personally think that people are going to run at least 2 units of these guys, and almost every list is going to run 3 units of these guys. They fall into very much the same category as the Infractor and Lord Exultant squads. I think people are just going to start with 3 of these and 3 of these at the start of their list building. It's an absolute must-take unit, and I think they're a great multifunctional unit that combos very well with our next one, which is the Chaos Rhino. Now, Emperor's Children got the love because compared to the other CSM options for the few of the next units we're going to talk about, the Emperor's Children ones are really good. And the Rhino is no exception to that. The Rhino loses the self-repair rule and instead gains an assault vehicle rule where you can advance your Rhino. And remember, the Rhino can still charge, can still shoot after that advance if need be. And then you can still disembark. You can't charge after that, which is fine, probably very balanced. But this combos incredibly well with Noise Marines to allow them to get little angles and things, and still your Rhino can activate afterwards, which is really powerful. Adds a lot of momentum to the list. Just having Rhinos in the list also gives you a barrier to your very squishy army from being killed. By forcing opponents to attack you in multiple activations, it's it's an incredibly good way of gaining momentum, especially because Rhinos are only 80 points. They're really, really cheap here, a little more expensive than the CSM ones, but justified for the extra good rule. They also do have Firing Deck, which works very well with a double Blastmaster going inside of the unit. I think you're going to see Rhinos in every single list here. They add huge momentum to the Emperor's Children, and Slaneshi Rhinos, a pink Rhino. Oh, beautiful. They're going to go up in must take. They're an absolutely brilliant unit. Next, we've got the Maulerfiend. Now, the Maulerfiend comes in at a very nice points cost of 130. It's an awkward model. The Lasher Tendrils on there, which is what you're going to want to take, gives him a lot of attacks, decent melee profile really for 130 points, and a very good defensive profile as well. But the Lasher Tendrils make it a little hard to maneuver. It's a big model, but it does move 8 inches, and having the ability to advance and charge does help a lot with the maneuverability. He also combos really well with adding a bit more kind of monstery defensive profiles into your list. I think the Maulerfiend is a very good choice. People shouldn't sleep on this, and I think we're going to see a lot of competitive lists that do end up running one of these. There is a good comparison to be made here between Lucius the Eternal and a Maulerfiend. They're almost the same points here. And I want, as a thought exercise, everyone to just think about the difference between these 2 units and how much they add to your list. I think it's very, very close between running a Maulerfiend and Lucius the Eternal, personally. So I'm going to pop the Maulerfiend just ahead of Lucius the Eternal, and I'll leave that there for the comments, the discussion points, everyone to tell me Vik is mad and crazy. But there is some logic to the madness, at least in my own head. Next, we have the Chaos Spawn. Another case of Emperor's Children get the best stuff, because the Chaos Spawn is brilliant in Emperor's Children. Same weapon profile, but has a rule where if you end your move within 9 inches, you can make a normal move, and you think this normal move will be d6, but it is a flat 6 normal move for a beast that goes through walls. This is a brilliant unit. It did get put to 80 points, which is completely fair. Now, there are a lot of options at 80 points for you to consider here, because 85 points gets you another battle line unit. 80 points gets you another Rhino. There are some choices to be made about whether the Chaos Spawn truly makes it into your list. But I think the Chaos Spawn as a data sheet, internal, external balance, is very, very strong. Let's see how it does competitively, but I'm going to put the Chaos Spawn as a useful choice here. And actually, I'm going to pop the Chaos Spawn just below Lucius the Eternal. Now we're into the dodgy stuff. We've got some dodgy stuff in here. So check. Yeah, is this still working? Perfect. Some dodgy stuff. So we've got the Chaos Terminators. Now, the Chaos Terminators, I don't know what happened here. They could have given them any datasheet rule, but they gave them such a bad datasheet rule. So listen to this, right? You need to shoot at a target, but you need to shoot all of your guns at the target. So you can't split fire, and then you get reroll charges against that target. Great. Ugh. So the Chaos Terminators, they're really, really not good at the moment. Now, they are a deep striking, combat-y kind of threat, good defensive profile, relatively good defensive profile, but they just needed a better datasheet rule. In my opinion, don't run these guys. Go for the flawless blades over the Terminators. There are better options here in this codex, and I would have loved a really cool, fluffy rule that was powerful on the datasheet to allow you to consider taking these guys over other options, but they're really badly written, in my opinion. Next one, Heldrake. Now, the Heldrake in Emperor's Children has such a glow up over the CSM one. It has an extra 2 wounds, has an extra point of toughness, and it has a 2-up save rather than a 3-up save. I don't know what happened there. That's a typo across the board. 3 typos is too many typos, so that's not a typo. That is a very good profile. Now, suffers a little bit from that OC0, unfortunately, but I would not blame anyone for wanting to run one of these Heldrakes because they're actually pretty cool. I don't think they're anywhere near this top layer of units, and you are going to run out of points before you get down to Fulgrim or even the Daemon Prince or even the Chaos Spawn in this list, because everything is so expensive. So I'm going to put the Heldrake before absolute coolness as situational. I think, if you run one of them, you are going to love using that, even if you lose the game, because they are OC0. It's a very cool model and also actually does do something on the board with a good defensive profile. Last one is a Sorcerer. Sorcerer gives the benefit of cover to a unit it joins, and it also has the ability to give -2 to charge and move to an enemy unit that you shot with. This unit has no place. It's really not going to be something that you ever spend your points on. It's at 60 points. You will always take a Lord Kakophonist, even a solo Lord Kakophonist, over this guy. So the 60-point mark, if the Lord K didn't exist, is very interesting. There's no other option at that points cost. And you might have seen one Sorcerer being kind of like a little lone action caddy. But at the moment, in this particular list, the Sorcerer adds nothing and sits in my F tier here. That is the entire tier list. Take your screenshots here of this. This is the Vik Fireside tier list, done at overall game, external, internal balance, all competitive levels. You're going to smash face with the Emperor's Children. I hope you all really enjoyed this, because I definitely enjoyed talking about the Emperor's Children. They are incredibly fun to play. Now, I want to urge people again, if you want to discuss more of this with me and the Emperor's Children community on the Fireside Discord, make sure to join at the Phoenix Lord level. There is a lot of discussion going on in the Discord at a really good, non-toxic, quite friendly competitive level. It's a really, really good community. But yeah, definitely, you can ask me as many questions as you want, and we can kind of work out our list design and what the challenges are for this army, because I would rate the Emperor's Children overall as an A tier army, but only after you've got some experience and you play them really, really well. You need to get every last drop of efficiency out of the army to really make the most of them. And actually, they don't have too many bad matchups, or at least not unwinnable matchups. Once you get the hang of them. So I think Emperor's Children are going to be a good army that is very, very unlikely to get nerfed. If anything, we might see points drops in the future on some things like Fulgrim, which I think opens up the Emperor's Children even more. They're a likable army. They're not like Eldar or T-Sons or Sisters. Emperor's Children are more likely to be stable. So this is an excellent long-term army with gorgeous models, extremely fun play style, not even mentally taxing. It just requires good core skills. So pick up the Emperor's Children. Absolutely brilliant army. I hope you all enjoy this. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, join our membership, particularly at the Phoenix Lord level for Discord access. And I will see you all next time by the Fireside. Let me see if I can hit an outro. Thank you for listening to the 40K Fireside. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, drop us a comment, check out the YouTube members area, and we look forward to seeing you again next time by the Fireside.